evening, everyone. Welcome into Vol Society Live on this Tuesday night. My name is David Morrison from the Vol Society, here to bring you another episode of Vol Society Live. As I mentioned, this is your show. This is not my show necessarily. This is where you can let your voice be heard, leave your comments, your questions, whether you're watching us on Facebook.com/UT Vol Society, YouTube.com/Vol Society, or on Twitter or X at Society Vol. We got our founder, Brad, already in the chat room. Says, how about them Vols? And just like that, leave your comments, your questions. I'll try to read them out tonight. Got a good viewership out here. Give early shout outs to Clyde, Jared, and Richard, leaving us a like on the Facebook. Early shout outs to y'all guys. And thank you for watching along. And like I said, tell us where you're watching this from tonight. And while we got a lot of people in here, I hope everybody got to listen to the latest episode of Good Old Rocky Talk. It has been our most downloaded episode since we started the podcast over a year ago. We welcome in the Spanish voice of the Vols. The guy's been blowing up the internet lately, Carlos Lopez. Just a fantastic interview with Carlos. Talk about, as Brad said, an unreal story. Talked about his journey to where he is today, his family taking a leap of faith. Defecting Venezuela when he was a youngster, coming to the United States, and just his journey of getting, like I said, to get where he's at. Please definitely check out that episode. Listen to that interview. Carlos was very fortunate to be with us for an hour. He talked to us, and we got to, even off air, talk to him almost another hour. Just very gracious with his time. Really delved deep into his faith. And just his so totally his gratefulness being a part of it. Like I said, you can listen to the podcast. But I was asking, how can you watch it? Right here, the Good Old Rocky Talk podcast available on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, podcast platforms. Just a great interview, and like I said, obviously we got the links on the social media pages along the way. Let's see here. Jared left a comment, said, I told Brad earlier how great that episode was. It was. Definitely check it out. Bryson says, stationed in South Carolina, took my wife to Applebee's to watch the game, and we were waving our Tennessee Vol flags at the bar. There you go. That's how you do it. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Tennessee-South Carolina game. You leave your comments, your questions, your thoughts. I'll kind of throw my little 2 cents in from time to time. And like I said, this is like I said, a nice win last week. Well, I wouldn't say nice. It was a great win last week, defeating South Carolina 41-20. We got a lot to talk about this game, and then going into the bye week. But lot to talk about. So I mentioned, Tennessee won 41-20 over South Carolina. All of us were there. The Vol Society crew was there, live and in living color. Brad went up earlier in the day, went tailgating at 9:30 in the morning. Brian and Brittany threw a nice tailgate party for Brad. Well, not necessarily for Brad, but for everybody. And Brad said defense finally showed up. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. And then Dees and I, we rode together. We left a little bit later in the day. David Dees had a prior commitment. And I decided to tag along with him, and we made our journey up there and got there right before the Vol Walk. And we went on into Neyland Stadium and just had a great time. So, like I said, Brad said the defense finally showed up. Definitely did show up. Just a fantastic defensive performance. Let's just look at the numbers here. Tennessee sacked Spencer Rattler 6 times in the game. A half a sack credited to Omar Norman Lott, Dominic Bailey, Karat Garland with the sack, Joshua Josephs with the sack. I know there's many others, and I don't know where the others are. Anyways, it was carried for 6 sacks. And then just the tackles. Wesley Walker led the way with 5 tackles, all solo tackles. Jalen McCullough did a great job. Aaron Beasley always does a great job for us. Just the defense really took care of Spencer Rattler. Rattler on the day was 24 for 35, 169, and a pick 6. His QBR was 33.6. So, He burned us last year with the 6 touchdowns. This year, um, not much of a not much of a performance. And like I said, kudos to the crowd. The Neyland Stadium was rocking and rolling Saturday night, probably the loudest environment uh, throughout the whole college football Saturday. Bryson says, it was amazing. Spencer Rattler is a good quarterback. If only he had a good team to back him up, but the revenge we got was even sweeter. Anytime an SEC team plays another SEC team, you can't predict what happens. If we can beat Georgia or they lose to someone else, we have a chance, win or lose, all for life. Absolutely. Um, Brad mentioned something to Bryson. My friend from California who was with me said it was truly the great experience in college football. Yeah, Brad was with someone from California, and this was his first SEC game. He's a USC season ticket holder. Going back to Bryson here, the comments coming in. Our Vols defense looked great. It was like a team of berries, Vol for life. Yeah, they were just all over the place. Shout out to Kamal Haddon with that pick six. I know he's been kind of ridiculed throughout the season, but he redeemed himself big time. And at times he does good time. At times he makes great plays, and at times he disappears. But thankfully he was on the up in this time. Phil, hi David and Vol Society love how we two are in South Carolina. I like your studio, David. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. There, Phil. Just various collections I've had over the years, kind of piled up back here, and there's even more, but the camera doesn't pick it all up. Jared says Spencer Rattler said that game was our Super Bowl in an interview. I'm going to disagree with Spencer Rattler. Our Super Bowl is going to come when we play Georgia. It was a big game for us. Nice win, but definitely not our game of the year. We'll see what happens when Georgia comes into town. But we'll see. Looking at South Carolina, Tennessee's rush defense was great. They stopped South Carolina. Rushed over 132 yards. 101 came from Mario Anderson, which he got that 75-yard touchdown run, which accumulated for a lot of it. But Spencer Rattler, we contained him. He was 11 carries, 19 yards. Only, of course, most of that was sacks. Did get a touchdown out of that. Xavier Legette had 1 carry for 7 yards, which he's a wide receiver. And actually, Xavier Legette, I'll go ahead and mention him. Tennessee did a great job containing him. That was my big concern, was trying to stop him, especially with our secondary has been burned quite a bit. But they did a great job containing him. 5 catches, 50 yards. The longest reception was 32 yards. Trey Knox, tight end, 7 catches, 51 yards on the day for him. He led in South Carolina, and the rest was just a couple of catches here and there from different players. And, Luke Doty did play in that game. But I guess the bright side for South Carolina, Jalen Kilgore had a great game for them. 15 tackles, and I think he got an interception from, pass deflection. I'm trying to figure out who got the interceptions off Milton here. Kilgore and DQ Smith. Okay. Oh, yeah, so he did get the picture. All right, cool. Anyway, so that was that's kind of like South Carolina, but Tennessee, what can you say about them? Let's see here. Jerry said, Frank, I think he was feeling a little salty. Bryson said it was heartwarming to see Hendon Hooker there with that Hollywood smile on his face while we fried chicken at Neyland Stadium. Yeah, Hendon Hooker was back. The Lions played Thursday night against the Green Bay Packers, which was a Lions win. So Hendon Hooker had the weekend off, I guess you can say, and came in for that. And it was just kind of full circle of, with Hendon Hooker going out with the injury, and coming back and got a rousing ovation. So good to see him back. And then the unfortunate part, we had another huge injury in the South Carolina game when Brew McCoy went out in the second quarter, I believe. Made a great catch and went down. And I was in a different section than our colleagues. So the first time I saw it, I saw that Brew McCoy grabbed his head. My first thought was, oh, he got a concussion, like a real bad concussion. I thought, okay, he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. And then you start hearing the news, throughout the stands that he rolled his ankle up or tore his knee up. And even when I watched the replay, I was still looking at the head because my thought was still he had a concussion. And then, like I said, you saw them bring the card out, and I did see the still shot of the ankle. I saw it one time. That's all I need to see. And we're going to miss Brew. And it's going to be very interesting to see who's now going to step up. We did see like Caleb Webb and Chaz Nimrod come into play, which we kind of saw them the week before against UTSA, but now they're going to have to play a bigger role, and especially, you lose your best wide receiver in Brew McCoy, your best blocking wide receiver, your most consistent wide receiver, a veteran out there. So we'll see who can really step up. Can Squirrel White, Ramel Keaton, and then the tight ends, Jacob Warren, McAllen Castles, and then Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod. Let's see here. Phil says, "Tell us, David, have we got what it takes to beat Texas A&M without Brew McCoy?" I think we've got a shot. If we had that, if this team that we saw Saturday against South Carolina continues to roll into the weeks to come, yeah, I think we do. It's just going to be, um, it's just going to be like who's going to really take that next step up. And Milton's going to have to be consistent too. I think Ramel Keaton can fill that role. I think he can break out. He's got the size and the ability. He's just going to have to really get open. Squirrel's going to be fine. He's going to do what he can do. Um, we didn't see Dante Thornton play Saturday. I'm not sure what was going on there. I was hanging out with Brad and I pointed out and I said, "Hey, Thornton's not dressed out." And he had like shorts on and he had his jersey on, but obviously wasn't ready to play. It's just it's very kind of concerning with him. But I think maybe like Keaton or White, maybe Caleb Webb can step up. It's a perfect opportunity for him. Toby watching us says at Alabama at Texas A&M, who wins? That's a great question there, Toby. That's going to be a great game. I'm excited to see that. I think Alabama probably will take the win on the road. Anything can happen. I think it's going to be a close game, but I can see Bama with a little bit of experience. And Texas A&M just lost their quarterback of the year, Wigman, and then they had Max Johnson starting. I just think both teams really have quarterback issues, but I think Bama's is a little bit more polished out, and I think they got a little bit more talent, better than Texas A&M. But this is going to be a great game on Saturday. I'm excited to see that. You got that game, and then at 12 o'clock you got Oklahoma, Texas. So a lot of good college football this weekend while our balls are off. Bryson says, with or without McCoy, we can win anything. Obviously, prayers for him, but we can't doubt our entire team of first-class athletes and win due to one injured player. It's like thinking Argentina isn't good without Messi. Great point. Um, yeah, like I said, just this is like I said. Hopefully, the team can just rally around his injury and not kind of hurt it. And Brad says at Neyland, we always have a shot. And then somebody mentioned about fans, I believe, or maybe I'm just making it. Oh yeah, Bryson said yes, absolutely. Our fan base is loyal. Yeah, great fan base on Saturday, and yeah, just I love our fans to death. Brad says one thing I know about the season: anyone can win. Yeah, you look at the SEC West. For years and years it was just Alabama and maybe Georgia or whoever was going to win the East. Well, now it's just completely wide open. Even though Bama only loss was to Texas outside of SEC play, but I don't really see Alabama cakewalk in the SEC West either. It's going to be a lot of fun to see about the West and just in general, just this has been a great college football season in general because you just don't have that one dominating team. Even though Georgia's still number one and still winning, we've already seen them, trail in games. We saw them trail against South Carolina, which we dominated South Carolina. We saw them trail last Saturday against Auburn, which they came back and won that one on the road. So there's just not really a good, solid, dominating team. Everybody's kind of had flaws. Probably Michigan and Washington is kind of somewhat dominated, but we haven't really seen them play superior opponents. Now, Washington's got a really tough game coming up in a couple of weeks against Oregon. But anyways, get back to Tennessee here and go back to your comments. Brad says Georgia keeps flirting with the loss, and the Vols are going to give them that loss. And Brad's mentioned that quite a bit to me. He's like he guarantees Georgia's going to lose to us. We'll see. I'm not trying to lead on that side just yet, but we'll kind of see. Kevin says my Vol Society hat was a good luck charm against South Carolina. That's from Kevin Huckabee. Yeah, awesome. Hope you do like it there, Kevin. Phil says I agree with Brad about Georgia. Says that Georgia will fall to the Vols. And then Kevin liked his hat. Go back to your Facebook shout outs. Shout out to Kevin, Becky, Tony, Jordan, Teresa, Bryson, Tyler, and my dad. And then 3 others, which I believe I read them already. So those are quick shout outs on the Facebook page. Keep those comments and questions coming. We're going to be here up till 9 o'clock. So share the video out. Leave, like I said, your comments, questions. Even though we got a bye week, definitely check it out. Also, once again, I'm going to keep reminding y'all, please definitely check out the latest episode of Good Old Rocky Talk as we welcome in Carlos Lopez. Great interview with him. Just spend some great time with us. Really open up about his life, and definitely check that out. It's doing very well on the downloads today. Let's see here. Greg said, guys, we have a physical force we should be using. I believe that force is Jacob Warren. Well, I hope so. I've been calling for Jacob Warren to be an impact player for a couple of years. I mean, he's got a couple touchdowns this year. Had one Saturday against South Carolina. I would love to see our tight ends used a little bit more now with Brew out. I really think we got a good group. I like Warren. I like McAllen Castles. Ethan Davis probably not going to see too much this year, but definitely the future's bright for him. Um, and I think Warren can do it. He's a big old guy. I mean, yeah, I would definitely use Jacob Warren. He's got an NFL tight end size. Uh, I know he's better blocking than catching, but you know, I think with Brew out, all options can be available to really take that offense in the next step. Or kind of a little bit last year. Brad says your mom made an interesting point. When all 3 of us attend the game, we win. That is true. I wish we can go to all the games. Maybe we can run the table. Kevin says, I wonder who's going to step up since Brew's going to be out. I mentioned I mentioned, maybe like Ramel Keaton, also Squirrel White, the tight ends. I think everybody can step up. Caleb says, let's go, baby. Tennessee football, let's go. Let's go, Caleb. Thank you for watching. Brad says, our podcast this week is the most listened episode ever. Check it out, All Society. And my mom says, Brad, let me buy y'all some Georgia tickets. That'd be awesome. They are number 1 hard to find, and number 2 going to have to break the bank for them. But I'm not going to complain if somebody buys them for me. Greg says Castles and Warren can be huge now. Warren could be our Bowers. Talking about Brock Bowers, the talented tight end at Georgia. Yeah, like I said, I would definitely use the tight ends a lot more. And it seems like Josh Heupel probably likes using the wide receivers somewhat more than the tight. Well, actually, they used Princeton Fant last year, kind of a little bit of everything. So, kind of why not? Any options good available. But if you kind of compare last year's team to this year's team, we relied really on a balanced attack for the most part. But we had really great wide receivers in Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman, Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, and those guys. But now it seems like we really are more consistent on the running game with Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, Dylan Sampson. I mean, looking at the rushing numbers, Tennessee rushed for 238 yards last Saturday. Jalen Wright went for a $123. Dylan Sampson, 9 carries, 49 yards with a touchdown. Jabari Small, 11 carries, 59 yards. So, I mean, Tennessee did a great job running the ball, and they have all year, even with the absence of Cooper Mays, which yeah, I mean, and I'll talk about Cooper Mays in a moment. Greg says we need Thornton now as well. Yeah, it was just so weird that didn't really hear nothing about Thornton being out for this game until right before kickoff, and I'm looking out on the field and I see him in shorts and no shoulder pads. So definitely concerning, and like I said, just kind of been a disappointment. But hopefully he can step up after the bye week and maybe contribute. Cole says Georgia has to come to us this year, and I think our fan base being as good as it is, we will have a better shot of winning than last season. I think so too. Like I said, Georgia to me Georgia is a beatable team. It's just you know does Tennessee kind of have that same fire in their eyes, fire in their belly that like they did against Alabama, knowing they can go in there and win and don't be intimidated by them. Like I said, Tennessee doesn't need to keep shooting themselves in the foot and let Georgia kind of blow it out at home. But I think it can be a big part. Brad says Cooper May being back made an impact. Yeah, Cooper May's coming back. That was great news to read Saturday morning that he was coming back, and the tempo looked a whole lot better. Uh, with Cooper Mays back in there, I thought the team looked very comfortable. We were going down the field very well. The running game was great, open, opening up big holes. The Joe Milton improved about 7 yards per pass, pretty much with him being back, and it just made a huge difference having Coop back, and hopefully he can stay healthy. Greg says hamstring issue for Dante Thornton. Okay. Thank you for that. Brad says, I'm telling you, I said it one day, we're going to win. We are winning that game, the Georgia game. Hello to my grandparents watching along. Miss K says, don't like Georgia either. Uh, not a Georgia fan. Cody says, hey, David, with Brew going down, do you think this may let D Williams to play some offense as well? What's your take on that? Yeah, I'm a little surprised they don't use D Williams a little bit more. D Williams mainly is used for special teams, and he's listed as a defensive back. But yeah, I would love to see like D Williams to be a part of the offense. Maybe not necessarily as maybe not as a wide receiver, but maybe like a some sort of a running back, or maybe like a Tyreek Hill type of player where you can kind of use him as a wide receiver, but maybe throw him out in the flat and let his speed go into play. I know Williams has had a little bit of a sophomore slump this year. He's dropped a couple of balls. I know in the South Carolina game he dropped one, but ended up running it in for a phantom touchdown, which got called back for a penalty. But yeah, I would definitely love to see D Williams out there to be executed more. I just think maybe just trying to find a way to put him in there. That's probably what's kind of maybe them hesitant on it, and just the consistency. Greg says Joe didn't have happy feet with Coop back and made a great throw on the move. Yeah, Joe was real. I mean, he did have have a couple of interceptions. I think one he just kind of forced to pass the first one, and then the second one was just great coverage that the South Carolina DB picked off. But I thought for the most part Joe looked very comfortable. I mean, Joe's still going to be Joe, and he's a different quarterback than Hendon Hooker. I mean, Hendon Hooker's kind of a once every 10-year type of quarterback we get at Tennessee, and Joe Milton's going to be him. But Joe Milton knows how to win games. I mean, he hasn't cost us too many games for the most part. The Florida game, yeah, it's an eyesore. But even going back to the 21 season, he started the Pitt game, but ended up getting hurt, and then Hendon took over, which that resulted in a loss on his win-loss record as a starter. But for the most part, Joe Milton, even though we get frustrated with his consistency and we want him to kind of rise to that Hendon Hooker level, he knows what to do and kind of gets the job done and wins games. Kind of like a Kirk Cousins, believe it or not, for the Minnesota Vikings. Let's see. Brad says, catch of the night, White at the goal line, unreal. That was a great catch by Squirrel White. I thought he dropped it, but man, he really worked to get it. And that's 2 games in a row we've kind of had like big catches from Joe Milton, which we know the arm strength, but Keaton had that great catch against UTSA, and then Squirrel White had a great one Saturday. Steve says Joe is a gunslinger. Sometimes it happens. Look at Favre. Yeah, that's a great point. Looking at comparing him to Brett Favre. That's the thing is with Joe Milton. He's got all the tools. It's just trying to use them the right way, and I think he's can from time to time. Phil says I think he needs to give Nico a chance to prove himself before we lose him. Yeah, that's kind of been the big head scratcher to me, especially missed opportunities, especially with Austin P and UTSA. Definitely that UTSA game, we lost a lot of chance to see Nico get to play. I mean, he's only played 2 games. I mean, who knows? I mean, if we see Nico the rest of the season, um, I don't see like Nico getting upset and leaving. I think everything I'm reading, he's fine with it. Uh, it's just, it's just I feel like we're wasting opportunities because, like I said, he's going to be the starter next year. This is Joe's last year. Um, so unless unless we can find a way to like blow out opponents and really feel comfortable putting them in there, but quite interesting to see that. See, Kevin says to Brad, I knew he was going to be an impact player when I watched his highlights in high school before he got here last year. Fun player to watch. Greg says Squirrel said he uh, never saw that ball. Possibly so. Squirrel's not a real tall guy, so uh, it's quite interesting. Uh, let's see. Brad says he's so fun to watch. One of my favorites. Talking about Squirrel White, and then Brad says Nico's fine. He knows what's up. Yeah, I hope so too. I think for the most part he does. But any other questions or comments on the podcast, or well, on the podcast on Ball Society here? Shout out to Tim, JC, leaving us a like, and my mom. Let's see. Steve says, "Who's next man up to fill the void left by Brew?" I think it needs to be everybody. Steve, I think Keaton, I think Squirrel White, I think the tight ends. Um, you know, I think it's going to have to take a lot of people. Maybe some of the young guys. Caleb Webb, he feels like he's getting a little bit more playing time. We saw Chaz Nimrod play Saturday. Um, I think it needs to kind of be everybody. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to like go out and be an all SEC wide receiver, but I think you need to fill that void where he's at to be more consistent, not have drop passes. I think Thornton, if he gets over this hamstring injury and gets 100% and feels good in there, I think he needs to be a part of it too. But I'm really like the running game going on right now. I think the running game is really kind of filling a small void of the passing game that we kind of took a step back on. Let's see here. Right, Greg says right now only Moore has a good grip on the offense. Nico is still learning, and he knows his role. Yeah, talking about Gaston Moore, the third string quarterback. Yeah, he's been around for a little bit. Um, okay, I got you there. Let's see. Greg says I think Joe trusts Ramel Keaton. Yeah, that's kind of what I've heard. Even going back to camp, it's like Ramel Keaton can be an all SEC wide receiver. It's just, um, you know, trying to get his, trying to make that next step for him in his playing ability. Um, and then Greg says, going to have someone who can run those slant passes. Yeah, I think Keaton can do it. I really truly believe we know Keaton can. He had that great catch from Hendon last year in the Florida game, and like I said, just going to, and he had a great catch this year also. I just think it's just his confidence and his ability to fill that void. And like I said, we got to. I mean, we got a bye week. I thought the bye week really hit at a great time. Like I said, an emotional win. In a way, I kind of wish we played Texas A&M on Saturday, since it's a home game, and um, I probably much rather have the bye week before going to Bama and Kentucky, back to back road games. But still, this is fine too. I guess it kind of gets the celebration, the big win over South Carolina, the revenge win, if you will. And then, like I said, you play your final home game of this 3 game stretch, and then you get the back to back road games with Bama and Kentucky uh, along the way. Um, and like I said, and it just so happens Alabama and Texas A&M, Tennessee's next 2 opponents are playing Saturday, so ball fans are going to definitely keep a close eye on that and kind of get a scouting report. And like I said, that's a huge game in the SEC West uh, for both teams. And like I said, you get the Aggies at home in 2 weeks, which I'll be there in 2 weeks. Can't wait for that game. Let's see here. Brad says everyone feeling good about us being Texas A&M next week. I I feel somewhat confident. I think it's going to be a shootout. Bobby Petrino has done a good job improving that Jimbo Fisher offense. Like I said, if we played them in 2022, I think Tennessee could have won by a couple touchdowns, especially when they're struggling offensively and we were clicking. But I think with Petrino kind of being an X factor for them, now I know A&M just lost their quarterback of the year, and now Max Johnson's taking over with they beat Arkansas last Saturday. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a really good game. Like I said, I think it's going to be kind of a shootout. And Texas A&M's got some great athletes. This will also be Walter Nolan's first game at the Tennessee since he played at Powell High School and committed to A&M. So be interesting to see how he does there. Greg's got a couple of comments. We need Thornton to step up. He's physical and can definitely get separation. That's been an issue for us. Our wide receivers are not getting separation. That's a great point there. Hyatt and Tillman were really great at getting separations from the DBs, but it seems like we don't really have that burner like we had last year. We got guys that can run with them. It's just trying to get that separation. I think Thornton can be that. I've seen highlights of him at Oregon. He did that. And then he says, "Do we get Peely back? Hopefully we can get him back. I mean, he's supposed to come back by October from what we heard originally. So, yeah, I mean, not guarantee he's going to play, but hopefully he can come back uh, by the A&M game. Give it, like I said, with this bye week, you get an extra week of recuperating some injuries, and the middle linebacker position is gotten a little bit better in the last couple of weeks. I think Heron's done a great job. Arian Carter's doing really good. I think I think with Peely out there, I think it will bring some more leadership. Kind of a similar situation with Cooper Mays. I think they can really get clicking with him out there. Jason, says Max Johnson is solid. We are going to have to play our best game thus far to beat Texas A&M. Yeah, Max Johnson, he's been around for a little bit. I think he played at LSU and transferred to A&M. Kind of a similar situation with Spencer Rattler. Even though Spencer didn't have his best game Saturday, but a guy that's been there, done that, played in a lot of games, played a lot of college football. So hopefully our crowd and hopefully we can come up with a good game plan to stop him, because I think this could be a close game too. And like this, wouldn't say a must. Well, it's kind of a must-win game for Tennessee in this one. I'm not saying I mean, it's not critical like the South Carolina game was, but I think this can be a big game for really, like I said, for not only for Josh Heupel, but this is also a huge game for Jimbo Fisher getting a huge road game. And which, by the way, I'm going to kind of go on a bit of a rant. Tennessee with the win ended up getting dropped in the AP poll, so we went from 21 to 22. I don't get why we did that, and Kentucky leapfrogged us, but obviously we'll end up moving up in the polls when we play Texas A&M. But I thought that was quite interesting. We dropped one spot and we won over South Carolina, by 21 points. So whatever. Anyways, Brad says, "How about Kentucky this year? Looking pretty good." Yeah, it's good for Kentucky, I guess, blowing out Florida. But man, now I wish we got that win over Florida. And just I don't know what it is about losing at the Swamp. But but Kentucky's got a huge game. They take on Georgia this week. I think Devin Leary's done a fine job for them. Ray Davis went off big against Florida. I thought he was going to break the single game college football rushing record, but he actually fell like 200 yards short. I forget about Samaje Perine going for like 400 yards against like Kansas or whoever. But anyways, Kentucky's going to be a tough road game here in about like 3 weeks from now. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But Phil says, we own Kentucky, baby. Yeah, we have owned Kentucky. Yeah, like I said, and we do go on the road there. It's going to be a great environment. It's going to be probably their biggest home game, but still, Kentucky just can't shake us off in football. Greg says next 3 games can be a huge impact for us. Absolutely. Like I said, the month of October, you're really going to see how Tennessee really taking that next step up or getting back to kind of where we were last year. Uh, this case says don't like Kentucky either. But yeah, I mean, A&M's big. Alabama's going to be big going down there, and they're going to Kentucky. I think Tennessee will still look really good. Even I think Tennessee needs to win 2 out of the next 3. If we go 3-0, I mean that's fantastic. That's worth celebrating about. But I think if we can take the next 2 out of 3 from one of those 3 teams, I think we'll still be fine. I know that gives us a second SEC loss though, and may hurt our shot in the East, but I think still will look fairly well uh, at the end of the day as far as like I said, just taking the next 2 out of 3, and I think we can. I think we got a great shot against A&M. It's gonna be close, but I think we got a great shot. Bama, I'm probably will lean side on Bama just being on the road, and then Kentucky, even though it is on the road, I think if our offense can get clicking and find a way to contain Devin Leary, we should be fine. Brad says still playoff worthy right now. Got to keep winning. Yeah, and I think obviously if we get that win against Bama, we're definitely in the playoff discussion. I know that Florida loss is going to be a blemish on our resume, especially if Florida keeps losing. But playing in the SEC, and let's just hypothetically say you get the win over Alabama. Hypothetically, so say you get the win over Georgia. I mean, you're right there in the discussion. And I think, by the time we roll into November, when the playoff committee reveals their poll every week, I mean, you're probably going to see different teams every week for the most part, unless you have some teams that kind of separate themselves from the pack. But the way September's went and the way I think the rest of the season's going, I think it's going to be a crapshoot every week. It wouldn't shock me every week in the playoff poll to see 4 different teams, or maybe six or 7 different of the same teams, but kind of like floating in and out of the playoffs and stuff. It's going to be very interesting, and I'm excited to see that. Greg says we got to get healthy and stay healthy, and I think this week shows the players are buying in more and more. I think so too. Like I said, I was kind of I was scared, even on the podcast previewing the South Carolina game, Dees and I were a little concerned about this South Carolina team. Just like, is this team really, you know, are they really going to take this team seriously? Do they really buy in right now with Josh Heupel? And I'm not down Josh Heupel by one bit, but I was just like this. The secondary didn't look too good. Offense has not been consistent, and they went into that game and took care of business. Had a fire in their belly, kind of like when Oregon played Colorado. You know, they played with their pads, and Tennessee played with their pads, and I think they can kind of continue to build that momentum, even with Brew out. I think just buying into Josh Heupel's system, and they know this is a different team from last year, but you can still win with what you got. Miss K says definitely don't like Alabama. Me neither. Let's see here. Yeah, let's see. Greg says honestly, I think Kentucky is a mirror image of us. They really set up the pass. Yeah, I think so too. We'll definitely find out a lot about Kentucky Saturday. Well, even playing Georgia, I don't know if we can kind of get a lot out of that too. Who knows? Brad says y'all didn't have the glass half full. No, and I'm usually a glass half full guy, very optimistic. It's just I've kind of seen this story before. I thought we would have hung in there, but I didn't know if we were going to blow them out. And then, you know, a couple of the national media experts that I trust, mainly Josh Payton, J.D. Pickell, they were saying Tennessee's going to win by 2 touchdowns, and I'm thinking, and I trust them a lot more. I'm not saying I don't trust Brad. I do trust Brad, but I was like, oh, maybe I'm just overthinking it. And like I said, Tennessee ended up taking care of business and pulled out a huge win at home. So I'm back into the optimistic phase here. I think, like I said, the next 3 games are going to be fine. I think we can win the next 2 out of 3. I think we'll lose probably one of those more likely lose one of those road games. I think we will lose one of those road games. I think it'll be Alabama. And then I think we'll finish October really good. I think we can take 2 out of 3. And then November, obviously, is when our schedule really lightens up. Although Missouri's still undefeated at this point, they got a big game against LSU on Saturday. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. I think Missouri's beating LSU. I think Missouri's going to go 6-0. I'm calling that right now. I just think this LSU team has got a lot of problems, and what they think, even though they got a lot of talent, I just think there's some issues, especially on that defensive side. And Brad says Dave's back. Brad's going with LSU over Mizzou on Saturday. I don't know. We'll see. But hopefully Missouri will kind of go back down to reality when we play them. We got to go to their place the week before we play Georgia, and I know back in the preseason, everybody said that was our trap game before we play Georgia. We'll kind of see there. I'm not really scared of Missouri per se, but they're having a great season with Eli Drinkowich and Brady Cook's doing a good job. Go to more of your shout outs. Shout out to Darlene, Ricky, Kay, Richard, leaving us a like on the Facebook. Ricky says, we will overcome and win at overrated Bama. Go Vols. I hope so. I like your optimism there, Ricky. I think it can be interesting. We'll definitely. Bama has been tested quite a bit. They overcome Ole Miss, and we'll definitely see a lot more about them against A&M. Kevin says depends on what team shows up. We can win the rest if this team plays. Or excuse me, if they play as a team on offense and defense. Yeah, definitely so. Brett says bingo. Yeah, just and Kevin makes a point. We've seen this over the years as Vol fans is which team shows up. Is it a good Tennessee team or is it the bad Tennessee team? And I guess you can say that about a lot of college football teams, but definitely Vols are in favor of that. Are you going to get that Florida the Tennessee team that showed up to Florida? Or are you going to get the Tennessee team that showed up Saturday? Hopefully, we never see that Tennessee team that showed up to Gainesville ever again. Um, definitely so. All right, we got about 15 more minutes. So, any more comments or questions? Like I said, don't forget the podcast with Carlos Lopez, the Spanish voice of the Vols. Great interview, emotional interview. Really went in depth about his life, his family leaving Venezuela, coming to the United States, and just his journey to become the Spanish voice of the Vols. He was with us for an hour. Very nice, very grateful of his time. Definitely check it out. The podcast is doing very well. Most downloaded episode since we started it. Definitely check it out. Listen to it. Very inspiring. Brad said best episode ever. Really went in depth of his faith, went in depth of, um, just like I said, just his journey. I didn't know he played college football. That really surprised me. Talked about that, and just a great guest, and definitely give him a follow on social media. He's doing a great job, and I think he can really break out big. Let's see here. But any more comments or questions? Let's see here. Greg says, "Do you guys think Joe looks truly comfortable and confident in what he was doing? I do believe he was timid with the knee. Yeah, uh, I thought he looked great out there, and I think with Cooper out there, probably think the offense was gelling a little bit more, and I think Joe felt more comfortable too. Um, yeah, it's just okay. I'll read Kevin's comment in a second. Yeah, I think. I just think he felt a little more comfortable, and I'm actually kind of excited to see what he can do down the stretch. Like I said, I'm not expecting Joe to break out and be an all SEC quarterback, but I think if Joe can continue to find ways to move the ball down the field and win us some football games, then I'm going to be fine. And I'm not going to even compare him to Hendon Hooker or any other quarterback, but just go out there, get your team in a position to win, and go win football games. Kevin says I'm halfway through it. I'll listen to the rest later on my lunch break tomorrow. It's been great. And I'm glad you're listening to it, Kevin. Um, yeah, we were going to talk more in depth about the South Carolina game and answer your questions, but he and then we kind of went through the hour time limit with that, but it's really good. Uh, glad everyone's enjoying it. It was really an eye opening experience, and just seeing the story behind the voice, if you will. Um, but any other questions or comments? A lot of leaving us a like on the Facebook. One of the Tea Time Crimes with Brad's wife Megan have their own true crime podcast. Let's see here. Phil says, "Have you heard anything about Clemson coming to the SEC?" Not lately. It's still kind of just floating rumors. I know the rumor is that Clemson and Florida State are kind of like flirting back and forth, talking with Greg Sankey in the SEC. I think it's going to happen eventually. I think they're just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen eventually with the Big Ten and Big 12 are kind of settled for 2024, but I think they're going to kind of make that next jump probably whenever, see what the ACC does, especially when they added Southern California, and SMU. Brad said, "Give Tea Time Crimes a shout out." Tea Time Crimes podcast, true crime podcast with Brad's wife Megan and Alana. They drink tea and talk about true crimes. Give awesome podcast that they do. They're doing a great job on their side. So if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. They do a good job. But yeah, I think eventually we'll see Clemson and Florida State joining. I see like Miami. I know Miami was kind of in that discussion too, but I think they're probably going to go to the Big Ten. Just kind of my thing, but it's not going to happen tomorrow or next year. It's going to probably be by decade's end, which I'm crazy to believe we're almost halfway through this decade. Um, but the realignments and stuff. I think you'll see the big change next year in 24, and then I think you'll be settled in for a few years, and then you'll have your next wave, and I think that's when you'll see the jump from Clemson. And it all comes down to TV deals and where money and where college football is going and down the road. It's just a kind of a lot of structure and logistics that kind of go into it. Any other questions or comments? We got about 10 more minutes left. Been a great show so far. Let's see here. Jared in the building from Brad. Oh, Jared, right? Did he leave us a like? Or he just watching along? Okay. Jared, the voice of the Cherokees. Met me playing Howard on Friday. And he leaves us a like. Awesome. Thank you, Jared. Leave us a like on the Facebook page. Anyway, so kind of just, while we've been talking about the schedule here, so I'll go ahead and kind of read the schedule really quick. So like I said, Tennessee's on the bye week this week. And then October the 14th, Texas A&M comes to Knoxville. That's now a 3:30 game on CBS. And then the third Saturday in October on the 21st, Tennessee at Alabama. And then another road game on the 28th at Kentucky. And then we roll into November the 4th, homecoming against UConn. UConn right now is 0-5. Hopefully they'll continue to lose. Man, you talking about Jim Mora. He took them to a bowl game last year, and now they're back to being winless. That's just weird. Anyways, and then November the 11th at Columbia, going to Missouri, take on the Missouri Tigers in Columbia. And then the game everybody circled on the calendar. This is our Super Bowl. November the 18th, Neyland Stadium, Georgia versus Tennessee. Telling you, if Tennessee can somehow squeeze out those two road games against Alabama, Kentucky, especially Alabama, yeah, that is going to be the game of the year right there. and everybody's going to talk about, Tennessee beat Alabama last year at Neyland Stadium. Can they do the same thing with Georgia? But like I said, you know, both teams are going to have to like win on out to get to just just a atmospheric game like that. And then November 25th, Saturday after Thanksgiving, the final game at home against Vanderbilt. Jared said, "Wait, I thought South Carolina was a Super Bowl." No, it's not. Despite what Spencer Rattler and Shane Beamer says, I mean, it was more of a revenge game. But you don't do revenge games in Super Bowls. Ours is coming up on the 18th. But kudos for letting thinking about us, I guess, for the most part. Miss K says, "Who would ever thought you and Dees and Brad would be doing this thing on Tuesday night, Little McMinn boys?" Yeah, I know we're very blessed doing this Vol Society with this show, with the podcast, and going to games, and you know talking to like Eric Ainge and Carlos Lopez and different other people. As like I said, it's you guys that really helped us out. We're just grateful to do it. We're just regular guys. We have regular jobs and families, and yeah, and we just love Tennessee athletics, Tennessee football, and you guys come on a Tuesday night and hang out with us for an hour and chat away. I'm just sitting here by myself in the living room in the Vol, or not the living room, but this Vol Society room. Guess it can be a living room. But we're just grateful for each and every one of y'all. But any other questions or comments here before we kind of wrap it up here? It's been a great show so far. Guess we'll go ahead and kind of reveal the schedule for the next week. Oh, let's see. Coach Corum would be proud. Yeah, he would definitely. Um, yeah. So schedule for next week. Tomorrow, not tomorrow. Thursday, tailgate Thursday at noon. Previewing the college football games coming up for the week with myself. About a 10-minute episode, just running through previews of games. Uh, Obviously, no game on Saturday, so we'll have nothing to really post about. Um, Monday, we will have Josh Heupel's press conference previewing Texas A&M. We'll have another episode of the podcast. We'll go more in depth of the South Carolina game. We kind of just hit the highlights. We'll answer your questions and obviously preview the Aggies game. We'll have another episode of All Society Live on Tuesday. And then I need to come up with we'll have to do another Vol Society Live or something for basketball. Rick Barnes had his uh, press conference today previewing the basketball team. We'll try to share that on the Facebook page. I didn't know he was supposed to do it. We've been caught up with football, but basketball will be here, believe it or not, next month. So we'll do a Vols and Lady Vols preview. Also, we shared the Lady Vols roster and did the individual players, kind of previewing that. But we'll go more in depth. We'll come up with a date when we do the basketball preview for the Vols and Lady Vols coming up. Normally, I do it during the bye week, but it kind of fell early, and I haven't done too much research. So just keep an eye on that. But like I said, got a lot of stuff happening on Vol Society. Once again, definitely check out this latest episode of Good Old Rocky Talk with Carlos Lopez. A great story. Very very appreciative of his time to talk to us, and like I said, he's doing great things. Um, and like I said, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the bye week. A lot of stuff I think happening around the area. Phil says thank you, Vol Society, for everything. Well, thank you, Phil, for watching along Tuesday nights and commenting on the chat. But yeah, we'll go ahead and kind of wrap it up. Final shout outs here. Shout out to Superfan Johnson leaving us a like. And Wesley and Raymond leaving us. Connie says, really enjoyed the show tonight. Thank you, Connie, for watching along. But that's going to wrap it up for Vol Society Live. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the bye week, whatever you do. Hope you enjoy it. Oh, Brad says, I took a pic with Superfan at the game. Huge fan. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that is him. That is him. Okay, awesome. That's what I thought it was. Yeah, I say enjoy the weekend. Like I said, whatever you do, take care of each other. Love your neighbor as yourself. And as always, we appreciate each and every one of you. We're grateful to do this each and every week. Don't forget the podcasts once again with Carlos Lopez. Until next week, this is David Morrison for Vols Society Live saying have a great night and go Vols.